Welcome one, welcome all to the San Antonio Sports Star Beach House here in Oxnard, California. My name is RJ Ochoa. It's Thursday, August the 3rd, 2023. I'm joined by my man, Rudy Jay, who you can hear every weekday from 6 to 10 a.m. Central on San Antonio Sports Star. It's 94.1, San Antonio Sports Star, sasportstar.com, the SA Sports Star YouTube channel. Rudy's been kind enough to offer us his services over the course of the week here on the YouTube channel to react to things. It's been a fun Thursday here in Oxnard.
It was a great Thursday. Great practice, great times, great commentary, great back and forth. Really good practice. So looking forward to today's, what are we calling this?
Well, this is kind of like our takeaways show.
I'm looking forward to our takeaway show.
Just going over things we saw at practice. I wrote about this. I have an article of blogontheboys.com. A lot of Blogging the Boys pride happening here. Actually, Rudy and I just walked down to the beach. Rudy was my photographer. I held up the Blogging the Boys flag, just kind of representing here in Oxnard. So that photo is up on social media. But I wrote about this, just kind of things I saw. Now, full disclosure, we talked about this on Tuesday. The show I'm hosting is from 12 to 2 Central. So I missed the first hour of practice. Rudy's out there with a wireless microphone. He sees everything. You saw the mojo moments today. So we'll get through that. And then my takeaways. We'll start with the mojo moments. It was not a good day for the Cowboys offense.
No, I think you described the word best when you were on with the blitz. Clunky. Not the worst, but, it's going to be back and forth. Just what was that? Tuesday, the offense, destroyed the defense. Today, the defense got the better of them. It was a little bit, some miscues, some timeouts, botched snaps. It was just a very weird day for the offense, to say the least. I mean, there was one time Dak actually took a timeout. Of course, they're trying to keep it game-like, so I understood why he did, but that's just where the offense was today. They took a timeout during a mojo moment in practice, so off day for the offense.
Something that I think is interesting, if you don't know, if you've never been to training camp, they are doing their best, and it seems silly on the surface, but to fully simulate a game. Like they're taking TV timeouts because that happens, and so they're trying to get in that rhythm, trying to adjust to that pace. And I know it sounds like kind of dumb to pretend or whatever, but that's the way it's going to, especially for this team that's always on prime time. So you always have all the big crews and the big broadcasts. So you have to kind of be ready and prepared for that. But that was a timeout that Dak called. Dak, actually, you mentioned the blitz. He joined the blitz today for us on Thursday. So we'll put the link to the SA Sports Star YouTube channel in the description. You can go watch that with Jason Minix and Joe Reinagle. It was very cool. Dak had a few bobbled snaps on Thursday, and that was not cool.
No, it wasn't. And to further your point about how much they try to make like a game, they even play the NBC music.
That's the mojo moment.
I was like, what is going on? But no, Dak, it's not. Keep in mind, when I say offense, there's Cooper Rush taking snaps.
Right.
There's Deuce Vaughn. There's Malik Davis. It's not just. I don't want everybody to think it's just Dak.
The snaps aren't all Dak's fault either. Right. Like there's stuff happening, and some of it is the defense playing really well. But it was a really defensive heavy day in terms of strength on Thursday. Other things that I kind of noticed. So I wrote about this. I'll just kind of rip through them. My first one was Josh Ball continues to see his first team work at right guard. You and Rob Thompson, who's on the couch over there. Nobody can see him.
What's up, bro?
But you guys had Mike McCarthy on today. Again, you can go watch that on the SA Sports Star YouTube channel. And you asked him, the obvious, like, what's it like not having Zach Martin here, whatever. And he was like, look, I mean, he loves Zach. He said all the right stuff. And he said he was going to be on a pitch count anyway. And he said, these are my words. He was like, the silver lining is, reps and opportunities for young players. He talked about Josh Ball specifically. So Josh Ball is getting the kind of heavy work at right guard right now as far as the first team is concerned. I don't think he's playing poorly, but it's really difficult to judge. I think we have to wait for the preseason.
And I think you got to remember this as well. Remember Terrence Steele, how he started. It got ugly. It was ugly, right? It was ugly, and everybody, we kind of gave up on him. And then next thing you know, he's in position where he's about to get paid. So I'm not saying by any means that Josh Ball is going to turn into Terrence Steele and deserve a big-time contract. But when you let things play out, Mike McCarthy also told us today, which is Thursday, that he gives his offensive lineman 3 years to see where exactly they're going to be. And I think that's a fair barometer for any position. You got to let things play out. And if with their development, with how well they've done on the offensive line, maybe give Josh Ball some time, and maybe there is something there.
I'm not ready to believe yet. I need to see.
That's fair.
I know.
I think that's fair.
I need to see it in the preseason, but I do think it's worth mentioning. Just similarly to like in terms of where people are, Deuce Vaughn got work with the ones. Malik Davis got work with the ones. So it's clear that they kind of have the inside track outside of Tony Pollard at the running back position. I know that was a little bit obvious, but again, I mean, the whole purpose of being out here is to note these things. Something I wrote down, we talked about a few of these things, but I don't know that we talked about this out there. We talk about Micah Parsons. We talk about DeMarcus Lawrence. We talk about Sam Williams, who's supposed to join you two on Friday.
Yes, Sam Williams will join us Friday.
Dante Fowler is a name that's kind of slipped through the cracks a little bit. I'm not saying he was like ruining practice, but Dante Fowler had a really productive day. And he just, again, it kind of speaks to the depth of the pass rusher group that, like, I mean, again, you say Parsons, Lawrence, Williams, Dorrance Armstrong, like you get to 4 dudes before you get to Dante Fowler. So if your 5th guy at best is having a nice day out there, it speaks to the quality of your overall room.
In fairness, I do forget about him. So you brought it up, and you're like, hey, dude, Dante's having a day. I was like, he is. And you forget about him because he's a veteran, you know, he's a Dan Quinn guy, been a Dan Quinn guy for some time, but he flushed the pocket. He flushed Dak out of the pocket a couple of times today when a situation where if it was a real live game, he probably would have had a couple of sacks, but he definitely had a day. Going back to Deuce, you know what I hate about this Deuce thing? I hate that he is this short because it's taking away from the fact that he's really making plays. Like, it's not like he's not on the field because, hey, he's short and he's cute. No, he's on the field because he's actually out there making plays on the offense. And today I got to see him make some plays in the special teams alongside of Turpin as well.
He did not do well. He muffed a few punts.
He muffed one.
Right.
I only saw with my eyes. I saw him muff one. Right.
But I mean, to the point, like, I think everybody thought like, oh, he'll just be like a cute special teams player.
Yes.
Like, no. He's a tried and true part of the offense. I think Cavante Turpin has graduated to that point as well.
For sure.
I talked about this on the air earlier, but I mean, last season, the Cowboys only had CeeDee Lamb and Tony Pollard in terms of explosive playmakers on offense. I know this is like a big way to put it, but they've added Brandon Cooks. They've added Deuce Vaughn. They've added Cavante Turpin on offense because they didn't utilize him. And in fact, something McCarthy told you, I transcribed this. He talked about how now Cavante like understands, you know, the full route tree and they can kind of use him. Before it was, you know, he was so limited they could only use him in certain moments and certain packages. So it explains why Cavante is being used more all of a sudden because, you know, he's caught up. I mean, it was, and McCarthy mentioned this, it was just at training camp a year ago when he joined the team. So there was a bit of a learning curve involved. So that's really exciting. I guess another thing on the offense for me, this is kind of a negative. So those are some positive things. I'm not saying Cooper Rush is playing poorly. But the reason that it's a conversation at QB2 is because he's not like dominating it. You know what I mean? Like it is like, I don't know how to say it other than to say he's leaving meat on the bone. That's a lame way to put it. But like this is a competition because Cooper Rush won't slam the door shut.
It's funny you say that. I think a couple of days ago, Rob and I shared, I guess we didn't argue about it, but he was like, I can see Will Grier taking over Cooper Rush as the number 2. And I kind of looked at him side eye like, wait a minute, Cooper was just 4-1. We pushing him out. But if you take last year away, you just go off of what you've seen in training camp thus far. Yeah, Will Greer's probably played a little bit better than him. But I mean, it's QB2. So I mean, I don't want to make a thing of it.
That played 5 games for the Cowboys last year. You know what I mean? Like it's.
But okay, so let's say he is playing poorly in training camp, like what we've seen. Would you be comfortable starting Will Grier 5 games? After what Cooper did last year, already knowing the system?
I brought up the thermostat thermometer analogy. Cooper Rush is a thermometer. He's only going to display what's around him. Will Grier,
he has more weapons now,
Will
just
Grier,
like that.
To a small degree, makes things happen. He's a playmaker. He makes plays. Like Cooper Rush just drives the bus. Again, if I have to put it down into brass tacks, that's how I would put it. My second to last point on offense, and this is something we discussed out there. Ronald Jones had a run, and we were like, okay, like, you know, again, like not trying to read too much into anything, but like I'm not ready to just cast off the idea of Ronald Jones being a contributor to this team. I understand, recognize, suspended for the first 2 games of the season, fine, but there's gas left in that tank. I totally believe that.
Well, from what I saw today, I saw a patient running back who broke a couple because, you know, they don't really tackle. You kind of got to get it like a 2-hand touch type of simulated game. But he wasn't really getting touched to the 2nd and 3rd level. He had, like, at least from what I saw, he had 3 really, really good runs. And, I mean, he's a proven veteran. So maybe after those 2 games, he feels that void we talked about that Zeke left.
You mentioned proven veteran. That's my natural segue. My last thing that I'm going to say about the offense. I don't know that you saw this, but at one point, that's Brandon Cooks calling you because I'm about to talk about him. Brandon Cooks, Tyron Johnson had a big play. It was like he ran like 60 yards down the field ultimately after the catch. And he came back, and it was a really nice play. And I mean, no offense, you're talking about a player who's not going to make the team, right? Like he's fighting for different things. Everybody understands that, but it was a big play, and he's kind of trotting back, and Brandon Cooks walks out like 15 yards, meets him with a fist bump. And is this small and insignificant? Really, probably. But we talk a lot about like, oh, well, Stephon Gilmore is going to bring leadership, and Brandon Cooks is going to bring leadership, and you talk about like, well, what does that even mean? To me, it means that like if you're Tyron Johnson, you're fighting for a roster spot or whatever, and you just make an awesome play, you're super proud of yourself, and you come back and somebody like Brandon Cooks is celebrating you, that has to feel really cool. So like I give Brandon Cooks a lot of respect for doing that.
Well, and it's also why Brandon Cooks, if he so chooses, been playing the league for forever, because it's called being a pro. And I was looking for him. I asked you and I was asking Rob, I was like, where's Cooks? Like, I don't know if they're low management or whatever, but the first thing y'all said was, hey, he just ran out to Johnson to meet him halfway to the field, kind of telling him what to do, what not to do. So that's a part of why he's here. Yes, obviously he's here to take the top off, I think, but also to be the leader that everywhere he's left, no one said a bad word about him. So this is a part of it. And he can play in the league for forever just by doing that if he wanted to.
My last takeaway is, and I talked about this on the Blitz when we were out there on the field still. Obviously, Donovan Wilson's out right now. Israel Mukwamu's out right now. Tyler Coyle is a former pet cat favorite of a lot of people. That's a term. I don't know. So he had a few moments. I mean, to this point, I haven't really paid much attention to Tyler. Like there hasn't been reason to, but like he was a part of my scope of vision today. So I mean, there's opportunity available for him. What with the injury situations potentially. So Tyler Coyle, I think, was a name that popped for me on Thursday that hadn't popped to this point before.
Wow. Well, I mean, I think the entire defense, but yeah, that's fair. I mean, they weren't really completing any passes. I thought everybody played well. I think they took Micah out of the game, out of the simulated scrimmage, because if not, they weren't going to get a playoff. Yeah. He really dominated Tyron today. But I think Tyron's also being load managed. That's the popular word in sports right now. They're trying to make sure he stays healthy. But I like what I saw from the entire defense today. They won the day. If that's a thing, the defense won the day.
They won the day. Do you have any other takeaways besides that before we wrap?
I did like the fact, and I told you this when you were hosting Cowboys Corner. I liked what they did, also did, as far as having Bond and Turpin returning punt at the same time. That could give a special teams coach nightmares, because you want to kick away from either one of those guys, but if one side is Bond, the other side Turpin, what do you do? So I like being able to see that, and I like that. That's like a weapon. And Mike McCarthy talks a lot about special teams and its importance.
It's a way what John Fossil is doing. The NFL is doing a lot to frankly remove returns from the game, and there's legit reason for that. Like I don't want to act like that's not the case, but John Fossil is very, very, very good at finding the crevice, at finding what's allowable. We joked about this earlier, like doing something that like isn't against the rules, but isn't like written down. You know what I mean? So like he's kind of that's a way. Exactly. Yeah. I'm interested by that as well. The last thing I wanted to mention, and again, go watch the Dak Prescott interview on the Blitz, but yes. He was asked, and this isn't like shocking, but it was just cool to see in person. He was asked like, what would you say is the expectation, or how would you define success this season? And a lot of like Dak is a really, cookie cutter answer guy. Like, I mean, I like he is
very much.
He is company line,
yes.
and that's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Today, Thursday, he was a little bit, I'd say aggressive, but he had dealt with all the like trash talk questions and everything, and so he was a little bit more animated than I've seen him in most interview circumstances. And so he was asked, how would you define success? And he said, I'm just going to say it honestly, Super Bowl. And then he it wasn't silly or ridiculous or dumb. And he was just like, look, I mean, like, we believe we're that good. We believe we can accomplish this. The fans, the organization deserve this. It's been a long time. And then he said all the right things. He said, I want to win multiple. And to do that, you have to win one. You have to take that first step. So that's how we define success. But it was cool to hear him actually say it.
And also, the other thing I took away, Dak is definitely a words have power guy. He didn't even want to say the word interception. He was like, I don't even want to say the word.
Oh, yeah,
remember?
That's right.
He was like, I don't even want to say the word. He was like, I don't know how many interceptions I threw last year.
No, he didn't say interception. He said, I don't know.
He was like, I don't know how many I threw. So he's a guy that's like, erases all negative thoughts, positive thoughts only. And I don't think there's anything wrong with saying Super Bowl. Like it's locker room material. Well, it's locker room material for the Cowboys too. And Mike McCarthy, I think his leadership has let them know, like, look, we are going to talk about it. We're not going to shy away from it. I think you have to speak these things into existence. And Dak's one of those guys, and he's taking it and running with it. And I had no problem with it.
I think something else, just last thing on the interception, because he was asked.
We don't say interception anymore.
It's
out of our vocabulary.
On the things we do not speak of. He was asked, like, you all know whose fault they are. Like, how many last year were your fault? And he really, again, not in a typical Dak Prescott, but he did such a great job of evading that. He was like, look, there are times where it's completely on me, where I make the wrong read. And then when he brought up, like, how it could be like a receiver's fault, he was like, there's times where, like, maybe the route is ran wrong, but I still, make a mistake. Like he absolutely, completely, and totally took ownership over it. I've said this for years. He is a dream of a person to root for. If you root for the Dallas Cowboys, it is like he is the dream player that you want to be the leader of your team. Like
it's a bit much. The word dream is a bit much.
There's no greater ambassador for the team. Like I remain very confident in that. And so
I would definitely let him babysit my daughters.
He actually told Rudy, this is a totally true story, that he liked his jacket. So
yeah, he did.
So I'm glad you wore that for this.
Appreciate it.
Okay, let's leave. Let's do this.
Okay, what's up?
What will be the final score between the Browns and Jets in the Pro Football Hall of Fame game?
I'm going to go 10-13. Zach Wilson.
That's way too clean of a score. Like there's gonna be like a missed.
It is. You threw me a slider. You threw me a Shohei slider. I didn't know what to say. I will say 16, but with like 3 field goals and a touchdown. 16, 9,
12. 16, 12 Jets. And
cool.
Whatever. But I actually think, I don't know, but I think that the team who's won the Hall of Fame game has never won the Super Bowl. So
do you throw it? Is it like the par 3 contest? That's a Masters?
No, but if I'm right, I could be wrong. But if that's true and the Jets lose, then people will be like, oh well, because the Jets hype is off the rails. So
yeah, it is.
Okay. I keep forgetting Rudy Jay
_star.
I thought that was a T in there.
It's all good.
Rudy Jay _star on Twitter and Instagram. He's a big TikToker as well. As we leave, tell us one thing you promised to eat tonight.
Salad.